Hello dear friends, and welcome to Insight Reading Enlightenment, a podcast where the notes on the page are only the beginning. I'm your host Darina Blogina, traverso player and eternal enthusiast of all things early, curious and slightly off the beaten track. This isn't just a podcast about sight reading, though we do love a well-placed ornament. It's a space for musicians, scholars, and curious souls to explore early music as a living, breathing art form. Together with inspiring guests, we dive into stories behind the scores, question traditions, and celebrate the wonderfully diverse voices shaping our field today. Whatever you are, a Baroque buff, a Renaissance dreamer, or just here for the lewd jokes, you are warmly welcome. I'm very happy and glad that you could join this interview, girls. Thank you so much. Maybe you could just introduce yourself and tell what you do and what do you do here in Basel.
So thank you so much for the invite and also for coming to the festival. I'm Elisa Rumici. I am an Italian pianist and researcher. I'm based here in Basel, but I do a PhD in Germany, in Freiburg. And what I have been doing in the past years has been, performing, of course, the regular repertoire, but also trying to discover composers that have been, forgotten or even erased from history, especially women composers.
I'm Maggie. I'm also a Swiss pianist and also a piano teacher. And I think the interest in women composer was really quite early in my bachelor studies, and it was like something new occurred into my life, because as I could see that there were so many women composers around, I could not turn blind again.
And maybe you could tell about this very special event that you have organized this year at the Music Academy Basel. How did you come to the idea of organizing such a big event, which is called the Feminale Festival?
I will tell the Christmas story. In fact, in my bachelor studies, really starting to interest myself for this topic, as already said. And then I was thinking that, I see so many problems, and there is no point in just like accusing and not doing anything. So I just thought we need a festival, because it's very important that also it starts in education, because there you have the biggest impact in social means. Like, if you tell interpreters, please play female composers, then the problem is that often we are also dependent on the market, and we know how market works. So I think it's smarter to really also look into education and create their platform. And also for me, it was very important to make kind of a students to students movement. And I hope that this worked out. And it started all in Hamburg in 2023, when I first founded with a group of really very good friends of mine there. And they're also really going on with the project. And then I had to leave for private reasons again to Switzerland. And I was like, shit, I need to continue, because I was missing this project so much. And I knocked at the doors of the Musik Hochschule in Basel. And then we started, and I was kind of, it's always difficult if you're really new and you don't know how structure works and how people are. And I was quite, a bit mistrusting to find somebody that will fit, because for me, you have to really have a good mean of working together, and also you have to good chemistry between each other. And so I was first a lonely wolf. I was starting to do the concept and everything. And then on the last class concert of the year, it was in 2023, I just talked about female composer. I also played often in class lessons. And then Elisa came to me when we drank together at the Christmas market. And she was like, yeah, I'm kind of really interested in that project. I mean, yeah, what do you think? And then I was like, yes, this is the person to work with. And I mean, since then, it's our project. For me, it was really clear that it's our project, and I was so happy to work with her, and it was great because we have different things, we have different energies and different thoughts, and together it's really making things better.
And maybe now a Christmas story from Elisa.
Yeah, what I remember that day was that I think we hadn't met before. I think that was the first time we actually met. And I remember you played very beautifully, and I thought, okay, she's doing something different, you know, like she's doing something different and she's doing it beautifully. And I started thinking, you know, I had all these ideas of people I had met who were trying to do similar stuff. And so I reached out and I said, you know, maybe if you want to be put in contact with these people, I can connect you. What are you doing? I'm also researching on things. You can address a topic from so many different angles that can be all of them very good, but not all of them necessarily speak to you, and not necessarily all of them are, you know, represent what you want to do. And when I started talking with Maggie, even if we barely knew each other, I felt first this wave of energy and strength that made me feel strong as well, you know? And I remember that we talked a little bit, and a few days after we had our first official online meeting about the festival, which I conducted as usual in pyjama. And you know, it was such a bad day for me for personal reasons. When we started talking about our ideas and goals, I felt so strong. And I knew we were going to do it. And I really hope we can do it again. This is our wish.
How is your concept that you have written for presenting it to the school administration is different from the result?
I mean, not so many changes. Some things didn't happen, other things happened, but really not many changes. I mean, let's say the main baby for me was the Femage, the female composers, this line where, I mean, this concert episode or series of concert where you had in one concert, you portrayed one person while talking and also playing her music and contextualize it. And this was the main idea, and it worked out. It was meant with different composers, but in the end it worked out.
Question for Elisa. I know that you work a lot with concerts in terms of presentation in the concerts, talking about pieces, composers and music. And you're very good at that. People should definitely go and check out your Instagram channel. So maybe you could also tell about this side of the festival, because there were a lot of panel talks, a lot of discussions. How did you pick the people? How did you find them?
Thank you so much. I feel like our idea from the beginning was that of offering a festival that doesn't only present concerts, but also situations in which different people can discuss about topics that we thought were very relevant. And coming back to your question earlier, I feel like when we started really thinking, okay, what do we want to offer in the festival? This required not just, artistic skills, meaning how do we choose the repertoire, which composers do we want to give a platform to, but it really required management skills that we really had to develop quickly, and also an attention to the context, because when you operate with such an important context like this school, where you have people from all over the world, you have different departments, you need to always pay attention not only to what you want to give, but what people want to receive, what people need. So when we decided to offer this podium discussion and conferences, we were aware of our limitations, because of course we knew that we cannot get guests from, for example, very distant countries. This was a decision that we had to make for practical reasons, but we tried to offer something which could have variety and that could have a direct impact on the people attending. So we wanted to offer something talking about directly relevant topics like, where does money go when you want to finance a concert? We talked about quota, pink quota. The podium discussion was quota gegen stereotype, and you were there. Then we thought, okay, there's another important aspect, which is parenthood, because it's not easy to build a family when you work in this field,
especially for women. Sorry, maybe to add also one thought, it's also to, if we don't give men a voice, we don't give men responsibility.
We had, professors, but we had also young festival curators. We had people who operate not just in the classical music scene, but also in the free music scene. So we tried to have a bit of diversity.
Yeah, and also, to build bridges to the other institutions was also important. I mean, somehow I think we failed also a bit, because it's really difficult to build those bridges. But in some ways we also achieved some goals. And also, we also invited the jazz singer to as a professor to this discussion, which was also very interesting to have another perspective on it, because the jazz scene itself has also still other problems concerning sexism than classical music.
I feel like, very often when you propose an idea, you want to hide everything what could go wrong, and you want to give the impression that you're going to do everything what can be done. And that's not realistic. You have to be very honest. So when we chose guests, we really made the decision, who are we going to invite this time? And who are we not going to invite this time, but we will try to invite the next time? And I feel like when you are comfortable with that, it's much easier to put together a program that you are proud of.
Talking about the program, could you highlight on the composers that you were featuring in this edition of the festival, and also to say why you picked those particular composers?
I mean, we had a bit of ideas before. I already mentioned this concert series. And to be really honest, that's part of programming. We had just to we had to take what comes from students and make out of it a sensible programming. Because, of course, I did all those lists of repertoire, but nobody really checked them, or very few checked them. And then they chose something, but the majority of people, they just send in what they're playing from female composers, and we just made kind of puzzles together out. And then also, really luckily, we got program of 4 composers that filled concerts, that were, then adding up to this series, but completely different composers than we thought.
And what we knew for sure was that we wanted to have a collaboration between different departments. So we wanted to have musicians coming from the Schola Cantorum, for the classic department, from the Zeitgenössische Musik department, from the jazz department. Even if you are the organizer, it's always a collaboration. Personally, what I really wanted, and I'm super proud we made it, was to have a moment to present music by Italian women composers. Because I feel like, while in Germany or France, for example, this work of, rediscovering women composers, thank God, has already started a while ago. But in Italy, this has been done less. So when we talked already in the beginning with Maggie, we acknowledged this problem. And I'm very happy that in the end we had enough music to have such a program.
So maybe for the audience who is listening to us, to understand which composers were featured at this edition of the festival, maybe you could just name the composers and from which periods they were, and maybe our audience has a chance to discover new female composers.
So there was one for Lily Boulanger and Germaine Taillefer. This was one Femage. Then there was one to dedication to Clara Schumann and Fanny Hensel.
Italian repertoire, we had 3 living composers. We had Paola Ciarlantini, we had Roberta Silvestrini and Beatrice Campodonico. And again, also there we tried to mix different periods, because this is also something that very often concert organizers don't take so much into account, which is sustainability, meaning sustainability for the audience. And having a lot of variety in short concerts allow the audience to have, more comfortable experience, And you can, it's a bit like a dinner. You can offer different things and people can pick, they can explore, and then they decide what they want to have.
And there was also Katarzyna Baczewicz, a Polish composer, which was also really great. It's great music, and it's really to be discovered a bit more.
And then we had, of course, especially in the closing concert, we had this beautiful opportunity to experience by the jazz campus the reworking of classical masterpieces.
From Lily Boulanger, it was...
Exactly. So composers from the jazz campus took this beautiful music and made something completely new out of it. So it's a way to, not just discover masterpieces, but bring them to life in different ways, again, from different angles.
Yeah. Creating is a story of also reception in kind of a way, because that's missing for all female composers, totally. I mean, if you go to search for the sonatas of Beethoven, I mean, you can already have an entire library. And if you go to search for sonatas of, for example, Mariana Martinez or Emily Meyer or so on, you don't find anything. What was also really great was the opening concert. I loved the idea of Elisa to make a blind program, because we are all completely biased. And that was also kind of an idea we implemented in in this festival, and also to have really all the three institutions together in the final concert. I mean, let's be honest, it was really kind of a pain at some point, the organization, but it was really worth it. And, you know, to feel just the feeling that all students were melted together, you know, it was also creating a very special atmosphere.
So you mentioned this blind concerts, the format, a very special format, I find. Maybe you could shortly tell what it is for the people who did not attend your festival.
So I experienced this type of blind format 1 year ago, actually, when I organized a concert where I mixed composers belonging to different periods, because I had the impression that often the audience is a bit skeptical when listening to contemporary repertoire or unfamiliar composers. So I played different etudes and I didn't tell the public who had written what, to see the reaction. And what we did in this case, we proposed a program only with music written by women composers, but we didn't tell the public before. Because we are aware that when someone listens to music written by a woman composer, you know, you don't go to the concert with the same attitude that you have when you go to listen to very established composers belonging to the canon. And so we had this concert and we gave the full program with the names at the end, so that the public, you know, they could enjoy the music just for what it is, and then know what they had listened, and, you know, if they are curious, listen to it again and discover these composers.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel in the moment when you realize, and when in a panel discussion or like in a public space of such an event, it gets confirmed that we have an issue, do you feel in a way helpless that we cannot solve it right now in the very moment, as a female creator, as a musician?
I think for me, I found kind of this way. In the beginning, I felt really helpless, and sometimes there are moments where you feel helpless, but in the same way, I try to build my own island. I think that's for me the way. And I think a lot of people build their own islands, and those islands add to a bigger movement.
Can you tell more about this island idea, how you see it?
It's not about a bubble, because I think bubbles are really exclusive and they're not constructive in any mean. And it's also the difference for me between bubble and island is that in a bubble you just want to get confirmation for your own opinion, and then you radicalize yourself. And for me, to have the island is to, you know, have your standards and have your values and try to implement them also in your, you know, everyday life as much as possible, but always be open for others, you know, and reach out for other islands and people that think similar, or maybe that have also completely other ideas. I mean, I think Elisa and me are a really good example for it. And then, you know, you can build a bigger island, you know? And it's for me exactly not about confirming your own bias, but, you know, to rethink always, but not giving up your values and your standards.
If you like to share one personal motivation that made you go so far to create this festival?
As Maggie said, I feel like the best way to regain power in your life is by doing, is by taking the problem and address it. So this was maybe the main reason for me, and also this sort of curiosity that I always have, which is, this is how things are done, but what if we would do them differently? What happens if instead of only playing this music, we also include that? Let other voices enter and be heard. What happens?
I think it's difficult because there are a lot of layers. Let's be honest. I mean, also something that you don't talk about is like female rage. And I see rage not only as something negative, because rage, in fact, is leading to action. That people respect your limits and that you keep dignity, you know? And for me, as teenager, I already saw, and I know that a lot of other people, when I talk to female friends, especially also pianists from a lot of different countries, there is no girl that doesn't say me, when I talk with her about it, no, this was never said to me. I can only give you 1 or 2 examples. So what I lived, and it was not only from men, it was also from women, that they said I'm more stupid because I'm a woman and I don't have the same discipline like a man. I don't have the same will to do something, you know? And I mean, if you say it to a girl that is around 15 or 16 years old, I mean, it changes your identity and it influences you if you want or not. Also, from another girl, I heard things like, yeah, you know, I think it was the 2nd or the 3rd Rachmaninoff concerto, it's just for men. Women cannot play it. Or like, and it's really not only, I think it was a woman that was saying it to her student. Or also, what I heard was also like, you know, it's just not the same if a woman plays piano or a man. It will never be the same in kind of the negative way, you know? And every time I listen to things like that, I'm getting angry. And it's kind of loading my batteries, wanting to show the anger, or it's not about it. It's just that I feel I have to change something, not to feel also for this other person, this kind of, you know, powerless feeling, because then you give them the right to do it. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that I think it's not about only anger, it's also about, you know, utopia. You take the power away of those sentences and this happening and this war if you just show how it can be different and how it can be collaborating. People really support each other and really play female composers and also, you know, to take them again, the ghosts of them and their spirits into our world. It changes.
This strategy of channeling your anger into something constructive, I think that's a fantastic tool to deal with that. Anyways, we can talk about the future of the festival. Maybe your ideas for the future, your wishes, let's say your dream Feminale Festival in the future. Maybe you could describe that.
Right now it's a bit top secret because we are discussing, because of course, you know, it was the first edition, so we were very interested in the feedback from outside. We wanted to see, you know, what would make sense to do again and how. So we are discussing, for example, how long the festival should be and how to reach more people and in which context to bring it. We are really thinking about this very much, which type of settings. But for sure, what we want to do is to find ways for the festival to have a long-lasting impact. And we are considering, you know, always collaborations with different contexts, with the idea of involving, you know, musicians always belonging to different fields. We don't want to do something that talks only for a certain very small group.
We are not 100% sure how things proceed, but that something will happen, that you can be sure of.
That's what I wanted to know. Of course, I'm gonna put in the description box all the links to your festival, to your Instagram account. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and thank you for your dedication to your mission.
And thank you, Darina, for the opportunity, and thank you, Elisa, for the working together and the sisterhood.
Thank you for tuning in to Inside Reading Enlightenment. If you enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to explore the description box below. You'll find some links and extras. And if this journey through early music inspired you, please consider following the podcast, sharing it with a fellow music lover, or leaving a kind review. It's a small gesture with a big echo, and it truly helps this project grow. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening between the lines. Bye bye.